Welcome, everybody. Welcome wherever you are, wherever you're catching this stream. Thank you for being with us. Um, this is the last episode of the summer. Uh, we're going to come back in the fall sometime, but this is kind of a finale of sorts for our first season of the Love Again podcast.
Not
Um,
season
it,
finale.
so, as you
George
can
is the
see,
snitch everywhere.
yeah,
All right,
I'm not by myself. I am.
all right, yeah, all right. Shoot,
This is a very very special episode, and I don't know how this is going to go. Literally, it could go. It's going to be what it is, and this is the remix edition of the Love Again podcast. I am not by myself. I have the one and only Gerard Bonner, my guy Victor George Smith. Thank you both, and we may have some guests coming to pop in and be with us, but right now it's just us. And thank you guys for being here.
yes, sir.
Yes,
Had
sir.
to.
Thank you for having us, man. It's a
Yes,
pleasure. Of course.
yeah, first time for me getting V George here. Gerard's been with me before, and so
Yes, sir.
thank you both for carving out some time to be with us. I wanted to do this show since I started the podcast
Wow.
because number one, I think it's important for men to talk publicly about love and relationships and all the complication. I don't think we do that enough. And surprisingly to me, and we'll talk about this a little later, you guys have become a part of my life. Um, and it's been an unexpected kind of wonderful thing. And I don't know if we've ever paused because when we talk publicly, we're always doing a show and it's something we never, we always talking about something, but
Yeah.
we never really, maybe a few times we've talked about us and our bond and our friendship and us being together. And so I definitely this was on my to-do list for us to come together. And so thank you again for coming to be with us. Victor, since you are, Gerard's been here before,
Hmm.
but I want to introduce you all to Victor George Smith. He is a songwriter. He is a musician. He is
Yeah,
a podcaster. He is a Stella Award nominee.
no,
Is
no. That was Gerard. That was Gerard's word. That was,
Don't do that.
no, I heard this few come looking for me.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
no. So
Last thing I need.
yeah, Victor is all of those things. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a PK. He's
Yeah,
and his parents have two churches, which was a great story. If
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
but
yeah.
he's here, and so welcome,
What's up, man?
welcome, V George.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm a viewer of the podcast.
Mhm.
I just got my notification in the top right hand corner
Yeah,
on my laptop that the show was on.
right.
So yeah,
We
yeah,
appreciate
man.
we appreciate you being here and for you taking your time out.
No
Connecticut's
problem.
yeah,
Yeah,
no.
man.
No.
Happy to be here.
Here's where I want to start. Um, we come together for those of y'all who don't know. What's up, Chris Brown? Um, um, we come together every week for a show called The Remix on the Bonafide Network. Um, here is what I don't know is how Bonafide Radio started and then how specifically the remix started and like what was the vision for it and who was originally the first group that started the remix with you, Gerard?
So, how did Bonafide Radio get started? It started in 2009. And it started as a result of I was originally on an FM station called Rejoice 100.9 in Virginia Beach. I was on there for a few years and had some really good times there. Actually started learning the board and running the morning show and doing all kinds of things. And so we had a really unexpected parting of ways. And in doing so, I still felt like I had a whole lot of radio left, and I didn't have an outlet for it. So at the time, I had just started, oddly enough, a photography website, which was called getbonafide.com. And so since I had a website, I said, well, we can start streaming what I want to do via this website. And so that's how Bonafide Radio got started in September of 2009.
Okay, hold on. You had a photography website?
Yes.
You were a photographer?
Yes.
All this time, I did not know that. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you still take? Yeah, you still
I still take pictures from time to time. I love taking
Jody
pictures.
Ann. Hey.
But yeah, that's how it got started. And what's I think so ironic about it is it was one of those things where there was a lot I didn't know in terms of, having a dedicated website specific for streaming music, all the things that would go with that. It was just kind of like use what you have and make it work. And so that's what we did to start Bonafide Radio. And then it would evolve into our own separate site, doing news, adding shows, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how we started in 2009. So the remix, the story for that is really interesting. It was the third or fourth, I think the third show to be a part of Bonafide Radio. The first one was the morning show. The second one was a show called Love Ludes, hosted by Trey Thomas, which was, gosh, one of the reasons why I love that show so much was because it really had a great part vision-wise in terms of what I wanted to do. I did not want us to be labeled a gospel station. I really wanted us to be about life music and a space where you could present multiple genres. So Love Ludes was part of that vision where, Trey pretty much did all R&B. And, he had great ways of putting it together. And it was amazing. Like, it was incredible. And we did it like on Monday nights. So it was about as close to the Quiet Storm as we would get, which again, gospel stations weren't doing that. So we were doing everything to be inspirational and to really fill a lot of check a lot of boxes for people in their lives. So then this takes us to the remix, which did not begin as the remix. It began as a show called Women Listen. And it was three females who were actually hosting that show, producing that show. That included Yanni. It included Shari Anderson, and it included Misty Taylor.
So Yanni was the Monique Walker of Bonafide Radio. You just let her.
That is so.
Don't do this.
She just go ahead. Just go
do this.
Do your thing.
Don't do this.
I'm sorry.
So here's what ended up happening. So they all, now here was the interesting thing about pretty much every host that ended up on Bonafide Radio, with the exception of one. Every host on Bonafide Radio had never hosted on radio before. Never, ever, ever. Which for me was a way to give people opportunities to have fresh voices, to learn, to really kind of just grab their craft and things like that. So those three young ladies started. Misty ended up leaving, and then Stacy came on board. Stacy is just, Lord, legendary, incredible singer, worked with Israel, Aaron Lindsay, all these other amazing things. And so it was Stacy, Shari, and Yanni. And they really, and it's funny because every time you change a person on a show or on a team, you really change the entire look of that show or look of that team. And so the show really started taking off with those three. So then we got to about episode 50. Now, mind you, I was not on air with that. I was just producing that show. We got to episode 50, and all three of them ended up transitioning. One decided one was going to school. Another one got super busy with work. Like, they all got busy with life. So in that transition, they were ready to end the show. And for me, I was like, nah, I think we can do something different. And that's where we brought on George and Ken and myself, and we called it Women Listen, the Remix, where the remix of it was going from an all women show to an all male show, where again, we hadn't heard the voices of Black women before. We got to hear it for about a year, and now we get to hear the voices of Black men. I was not, so fun fact that nobody really knows, I was only supposed to be a placeholder. I was not supposed to be a regular host on that show. But the chemistry with the three of us ended up being what it was. And it was just like, okay, Patrick, you came on as a guest for a while. We really liked you. And it was like, well, let's keep bringing Patrick on. So Patrick came on.
Well, hold on. Wait. Before we get that, hold on. Let's pause right here. Welcome. Okay. Let's welcome James. James said he wasn't coming. That's what
he did say that.
He did say that. And he has blessed us with his presence. And so
with his Benny Hinn hands.
Yeah.
Come on, Mamba hands.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, thank you. No.
This guy.
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, James. Thanks for being here. But let's pause a minute, because I'm always interested in who knew who first. Like, how did the core group come together? Did you know Ken first? Did you know Victor first? And how did you know either one of them would work for what you were trying to do?
So I'm trying to remember. I mean, obviously I met Victor early. He was part of the original crew. In terms of the BRC, like he was at every party. As a matter of fact, let me get my dates right. Was it 2010 or 2011 where you had the backpack? And
that was 2010.
2010. So it was the first party.
No, it was 20. I missed the first party.
So okay. 2011. Yeah. 2011. He had the backpack and all kinds of giving away the mixtape, the 150 mixtape. So we knew each other then. I can't even tell you how long I've known Ken. Like, it feels like I've known him forever. But Ken was at the launch of Bonafide Radio. When we did day one, Ken was there. And so, the three of us coming together just kind of made sense. And
how did you meet Victor George, though?
I met him through Bonafide Radio. Like, we all met here in the chat room. That's how we met.
The Bonafide Radio chat room.
Yeah.
So you were streaming online, and Victor comes on and just starts being Victor in the comments.
So what's coming to me? Like, as I'm telling this story, I think I forgot probably the most important part, which was the chat room.
Yeah.
The chat room, we had a chat room going along with the streaming, which was completely live, and almost anything would happen in that chat room. We would laugh, we would joke, we'd end up in full service. I mean, like, anything would happen. And I mean, tons of amazing friendships would form. So by the time we would do the party, it was almost like a convention of sorts where we've been talking all year long. Now we finally get to meet up and hang out and all that. So that's where, again, we got to click both online and in real life before we ended up deciding, okay, well, let's do this show. So the chat room, shout out to all the BRC who is everywhere. The chat room was major. Brought a lot
Darshell.
Darshell was in there too.
What's up, Darshell?
Yeah. Okay, so 2011 is when you started the remix.
Is that right? Gosh, I should remember this. Well, the original show or
no, the version? Remix as we know it now with you and Ken and Victor.
11, 12, one of those years. I can't remember exactly which year it was. Okay. I should, but I don't remember. I'll look back and see.
And I asked that because I'm trying to remember. I do remember Ken, and Ken introduced me to all of you all.
Yes.
Well, specifically to Gerard and Victor, because I remember him calling one day and like, "Hey, I need you to pop in on this show real quick." And I was like, okay. And
Yeah.
then there was a couple of times within the first month or 2 months or so, I was like, yeah, he's not gonna ask me back. I was like, I've gone too far now. I was looking for my termination notice in the mail, and to this day, it could be any week. Like, you know.
Yeah.
No, not happening.
Any week, I'd be like, yeah, this is it.
That's it.
We went too far.
It's always when Gerard goes into the deep voice
Yeah.
and tries to go on with the rest of the show
Yeah.
and override whatever you just said, but
Oh.
George is still laughing at
Yeah.
the time. And so Gerard is like, in other news.
Yeah.
Findings.
Yeah.
I love
I mean, I
man.
try, but you know.
Yeah. No, I thought when we were talking about the Pour Your Oil artist and Krispy Kreme, I was like, yeah, this is not. Yeah. He's gonna.
But the thing is, we've had so many moments at this point
Yeah.
where
You
it's
can just
like,
fire us all for anything now.
I
But
mean, it's just now it's. But
But we
what's
couldn't even
funny
air
is-
that one. We can air that one.
I couldn't.
No,
yeah.
man.
There's the missing episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
missing episodes.
Yeah.
So Ken asked me to come, and then I met you and Victor through this, and then I think sometime after me, I don't know if it was 6 months, it was like less than a year. Then James was added, and I'm interested in Victor, you telling this story because you all were friends, right? Victor and James were friends. Like, how did you all become friends, and then how did James get on the remix with us?
Like James was just one of those people on social media that I ended up vibing with. Like, when was the golden era of Twitter? 2009, 2010.
Between
2011.
2009 and 12. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like I just knew there was a bunch of cool people that I talked to that shared interests. Like, you would like eventually say something like, I can't believe Marion Barber fumbled that. I hate my Cowboys. And then he would tweet back, I'm a Cowboys fan too, or something like that. So it was just
You are trauma bonded.
I would like to call it mutual interest.
Fair enough.
But yes, there's just a lot of mutual interest, and like, dude was just cool. Like, we just maintained like a really cool banter the whole time. Like, I can't even like point to a specific thing, and it was just like we were like really cool, like all the time, just talking and stuff like that. And I remember one day, I don't know if GB needed somebody, and I was just like, James, you should be on this show with us, bro.
Mhm.
I was like, you would add a lot to it, because I know, like, I know what I bring to the show, and I knew how smart and educated James was, while still being as silly as anybody could be. There's another side to James that I don't got, and I knew that, and I knew that he could bring it and add to the show. So when he came to the show and he brought what I didn't have to the show, it added to it. So yeah, it was just something as simple as that. It wasn't really, I can't even put my thumb on it. It was just, I just remember like, yo, you should really be on the show. And I think Gerard would like you. And he was like, all right, cool. Boom, boom.
So James, you and I had the same experience of this show was already established, right? And they already had its audience, and we were like the new kids trying to fill our way into it and pick our spots and all the like. How was that? I know how it was for me, and I talk about that in a minute. But how was it for you, James?
My first time on the show, I was nervous.
Mhm.
I was completely nervous because I had followed Gerard for a while before I met him. And, I would always go into gospelflavor.com.
Wow.
All the time. All right. So that was my
I
way of
didn't know it
keeping
was
up.
that long. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea that was you, Gerard. I was on Gospel
Wow.
Flavor all the time too. Like,
Wow.
that's where I got all my news. I had no idea you had anything to do with that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
So between whatever he and whatever Melanie wrote, that's how I kept my upkeep with the industry, because I was so out of it and everything else. So he was kind of like my pipeline to all of that. And George is right. We connected via Twitter, Jesus, wrestling, and Cowboys. And so when we found out we had those three things in common, it was like, boom. The funny part is, Patrick, I actually met Yanni before I met Gerard. Yeah.
Gerard said,
No, I didn't know.
No, there's nothing more about it.
Lord, don't let the remix break up on YouTube.
No. There's confessionals out here. We don't like.
Watch this.
Don't let me play the clip.
No.
James, like, watch this.
Right.
It's like on TikTok.
James is about to play a disclaimer real quick. No. You know how you get in trouble? You raise your eyebrows up. Let me explain.
Right. No.
It was through Twitter and Words with Friends. Actually.
Yeah.
Yanni cheats at Words with Friends.
Listen, let me tell you something. If you see her name,
James's
name, or Gerard's name, don't accept that game.
No. They are cheating. It's rigged.
True story.
It's
She
rigged.
cussed me out in Words with Friends. True story.
Now I believe that.
Yes.
Fully.
Yes. So I would see her name, and this is before they got married. I would see her name, and she and George would comment on different things, and then I would see Gerard's name pop up, and so I started following Gerard, like everywhere, social media, because I knew of his name, and it was like, okay, well, he's connected to them. Oh, it's really cool, but I hadn't met him yet. I always wanted to. I think I presented a song actually to the show.
Okay.
And a song that I did, and you played it maybe once or twice, but you didn't know me. So, it made the cut. Bless you. Wow. You're healing in Jesus' name.
I know. Forgive me for my cough. I'm still.
You can cough on your show.
I'm still being healed.
Yeah.
Right.
But I knew of Gerard. I knew of Gerard. But I didn't know, and I would listen to the show. And so I heard the show. I would listen to Bonafide Radio, and so when George called me, I'm like, whoa. Because these guys are very eloquent. They already had a relationship and everything. And Patrick, I didn't know you at all, but I knew of your name because of the Song Pop Challenge.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Song Pop. That's old school because we did a tournament.
Yes, sure did.
We actually did a song. Yeah. We sure did.
Yeah. So we connected through that.
Didn't I win that?
You did win that, George.
Okay,
well,
I'm not bragging. I'm not bragging that I won. I'm just.
You need your plaque up against the wall.
I need to have something. I got belts, trophies, and go ahead, Jim.
There were 2 tournaments.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you. Okay, be encouraged. All right, but so when George called me that morning and said I need you on, and they only had like a couple of minutes to prep. If y'all remember, I just spent a lot of the time listening. To the show.
I found myself doing that too when I first got on. Like you're listening, trying to find out who's who, and it was some very high level, sophisticated conversations.
Yes,
that we were having about music and all the like. And I was like, oh, these guys are pretty smart. Let me do more listening than anything. So I totally am with you. Renata Del Carmen wants to know what's in my cup. Jesus is in my cup. He feels it. God. And it overflows. Don't do it.
That's the next level right there.
Next level.
That's the next level. Live music on the show.
Wow. Yeah, that's special.
I remember when I first got on the show. Here's one of the things I thought Gerard was going to ask me not to come back because I remember like I ran my garbage disposal one time and I thought I was on mute, and then like I was like I was washing dishes sometimes.
Y'all gotta
Like
understand.
politely, what is that? So many times I had to act like it wasn't me. It was me. I thought I didn't. It took me a minute. I'm
All right.
good now, but in the first, I was like,
Does anybody else have a funny story about noise during the remix? Because I got one. So I'm
Go
kind
ahead.
of in like the games room section of my crib. So I'm on one side and Trey's way on the other side. So Trey's on his playing his video game, playing Call of Duty. Whoa! Gerard said, "What was that?" I just hit mute. I was just like, I was not admitting
nothing. Like I don't.
I was like, if you don't say my name, I'm not saying a thing.
Wow.
I've had a few, but we are known to take this show in various places in our world. So we could be driving, we could be cooking, we could be in all types of places. And one time I was driving home and I was in the midst of making what I thought was a salient point.
Right. Something
that was going to bless the listeners and everyone. But it was my turn.
Remember that.
The turning signal. All you heard when I'm trying to sound like Cornel West was this left turn signal that was going
right. It's like, are you still turning?
Right. One of those phrases like, and the God thing about this is, you know, people make up them words.
That's all you hear.
Like my heart was telling me,
right.
Patrick wouldn't let it slide, right?
No, and I need to grow up, but sometimes it just won't. It won't happen. I've been trying to think about how long we have been doing the show together. We were in an Obama administration.
Yes.
Was it halfway through the first one? Because that's 2008.
Well, so I know when I came on, Patrick, it was 2016 when I first came on. My first time being on was January 2016.
Okay.
Then I had to come on in 14 then, right?
14 or 13 at least.
Yeah, I want to say as early as 12 though.
That could be right. 12 could be right.
Because what I'm thinking about.
Because I remember, like, we did a set of episodes, but you were an early guest and then you kept coming back early on. So I mean 12 I think would probably be accurate.
Because I remember we talked about Obama's re-election.
Yes.
And that was 12.
That was 12.
So it was either that year or the year before. And if that is true, then that's 10 years.
Yeah.
That's 10 years. And what has happened over the last
boy.
I mean, a lot of life has happened over the last
a whole lot.
Here's my question, Gerard. This is for me and James, so we could get clarity.
Okay.
I don't think you intended for us to be regulars on the show. Was that the intent? Or like at what time did you were like, oh, I think we've got this set and this works?
So I think when you guys were guests, obviously you guys were doing great. And then when you kept coming back and I saw that you guys had quite a bit to add, it was kind of like, well, no, let's just, because again, remember, the intent was not for me to be on this show. It was to be able to produce it with other people on it. But the way the chemistry went, it just kind of made sense. And what was interesting about what both of you brought was everybody brought something different. And so the chemistry made sense. The other thing that worked also was with having 5 people who all had something to bring, it gave everybody room if somebody couldn't be there that we could keep rocking. You know what I mean? So when everybody is together, it's like Voltron. It's pretty nuts.
Wait. I think we got the last piece. I think Voltron is finally assembled.
Voltron is
formed.
assembling. Oh,
He got to
my
get you got to get your camera together, Kenneth,
God.
Kenneth Mosley. But
Kenneth
Kenneth
V.
Mosley's in the
Mosley.
house.
Woo. Now
It's a
this
full
makes my
set.
heart glad.
Yeah, we haven't been in the same space in a.
It's been a
Been a
minute.
minute.
It's been a minute since we all
It's
did
been
a
a
show
minute.
together, like this.
Yeah.
So,
But that was the other cool thing, as you mentioned, a whole lot of life happening. Everybody in this crew are all very accomplished, and so watching what everybody was doing was really, really impressive. So when everybody brings what they bring, it made for an incredible show. And what would end up happening too was life started happening around the world, and we started really talking about it. So our show started morphing, because at first it was like, okay, we're just going to talk about things from a men's perspective, which was fun and interesting. I mean, you know, we had the whole honesty hour, which was just, I mean, nuts. And, you know, we found out that Ken had a certain anointing that I'll let him tell you about if he so desires. You know, but but then what ended up happening was we had Trayvon Martin. And then we started having these kinds of things happening, and we started talking about it, which had a much different impact, because when the women were doing the show, we didn't have those kinds of really heavy things happening in the world. So they were talking more relationships, and it was fun, nothing wrong with it, but we started tackling things that were happening in the world around us. And so that really started changing the direction of the show. And that's, again, where all of our perspectives were so necessary. So I don't know that when you guys first came on, it was initially, let's just expand to 5. It was that you guys were so good that it just only made sense to do.
yeah, because James, I don't know about you. I don't know if anybody ever asked me to actually be a part of the show. It was like, you know, just come on, hang out for a minute. Oh, come back. Can you do this or whatever? Then one day I see a flyer. You know, we got
light skin on the flyer. Like
I know, right? I was like,
2012.
Yeah.
like we commissioned now. Like we agree.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
No Montrell Darrett's here, you know, where you're singing on the record and not on the album cover. I love Montrell Darrett.
As long
I
as
want
I
to
can
be
be
very
Keith
clear.
Staten.
Well, there it is. I love Montrell Darrett, and I was always salty that he never got on the cover. But that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Don't run that weird.
Yeah, no.
Montrell.
So we found our this group. Like we're here now. We got the cover. We got the album artwork to prove it. Like we're all in the group now. And I think somewhere or another, Ken and I have been friends since early 2000, maybe 90. Well, yeah, it was 2000. So we had a friendship. I'm interested in us coming together because we didn't know each other too. Simultaneously, we are doing a show and we have been introduced to each other on the show. Like, hey, this is Victor. Hey, Victor. And then one day, James, hey. And I didn't know you, Gerard. So I was like, hey, how you doing? You know, and so we were strangers to each other. Some kind of way, though, we were doing the show, and then we started developing our own friendships, relationships. We would talk about stuff that was going on. And I think for me, what really cemented me was not just the show, but it was like us reaching out to one another on a day where we weren't doing the show. Like, you know, what's up? Or I need to talk about this. I remember I was in class and I was doing it was a cultural anthropology class, and Victor had to be like one of the only Jamaican, my friends that I had. And we were doing an ethnography on culture. And I was like, hey, can you help me with this? And he did. Like, he got me through my project. And so we started developing connections beyond just the show. And I want any of you all to talk about what the friendship and the brotherhood has meant to you during these times outside of the show itself. Victor, Kenneth, yes, you can start. You know your camera's not on.
I do,
Okay.
and I must confess. I mean, I can turn it on. I am in my car because I ordered barbecue,
Okay.
Ah,
Yeah.
and so I had to go. I had to go do what Christ told me to do. He said, "Go."
Right.
yes.
And
You
so
know,
I must go.
you don't have to turn it on. We don't want you to get tickets or anything.
Well, no, I mean, y'all can see me. I don't have to look at y'all to, So hey, why not?
Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
There he is.
All right. You want to answer the question?
Yes. Now tell me what it was again. I'm just joking. I know what it was. So here's this is why I'm in part answering this question because Gerard, did you give the year that we started, Gerard?
I think I did. I was trying to remember.
2012 or 11?
Yeah, it was 11 or 12. One of those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I remember I was in Texas still,
Right.
and I was about to say something. It was prior to us all getting catfished.
Ah,
I
wow.
remember that.
I remember
We
that.
all had one mutual friend.
Yo.
We discovered.
And all of us had a mutual friend of a different name,
Yeah.
and apparently a different picture, but it was the same person catfishing us.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
but what I was gonna say is, for this length and amount of time,
Oh my God.
wasn't that crazy, George? Like how we really need
Yo.
a class action lawsuit.
She said she was at a Cowboys game and sent me videos from inside the stadium, bro. Like, are you kidding me?
You ain't got a lot to kick it, Craig. I mean, it's all virtual.
Right.
We not never gonna really hang out. Just be yourself. Like I don't have to shun you for any specific reason other than you are certifiable.
Wow.
But what this place means to me is it's a safe space. Because like you said, Patrick, we, after spending a great amount of time with each other week to week and talking about our lives on the podcast and on Bonafide Radio, a bond forms whether you want it or not. And it is now to the point where we're like, hey, yo, send up a prayer because this is going on, or I'm not in the best mental space right now. Stuff that we don't always get to do. And this is a group of people we pretty much converse every day. We communicate every day, and it's been like this for years.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's a safe space.
Yeah. Anybody else, Victor?
Yeah, man. Everything Ken said. Been here since the beginning, and it's like everything just grew and just took off. And I literally look forward to, even though I do talk to you guys every day, I look forward to when we actually record and do these shows together. And it's a lot of fun. It tends to get heavy at times. But I guess sometimes that kind of stuff is needed, and also I would say for us, a different perspective might be needed on some things too, because like some things might happen in the world and you might have your way of viewing it or your way of seeing it, and then we get together and we talk about it, and I'm like, I ain't think about it that way, like, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's a good spot for us to be in. I think it's helped me greatly, just for my own sanity and just for like everyday life. So yeah, man, it's just a nice spot. I like, we just started using what we had, the lady telling us that, we're recording now. So I often forget that the red button is on.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for the disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
For that. I'm sorry. I gotta say sorry
feel attacked.
here. Can I say sorry to Gerard publicly here?
It's all good.
Man.
It's all good.
They had 5 Stellar Award nominee plaques behind them. Anyway,
So,
Read the rules, man. You mad at them? Don't be like talking
So
about your ex and you got the shirt that she got you on. Like,
right.
All right, I'm done.
So
What?
one of the things that happens is on the show when you have opinionated points of views, sometimes there's friction, right? There have been times where it was some clashes, and some were on air, and some were not. Periodically,
Ken.
You don't say. I personally get along with everyone. So.
I think we generally all get along. We do. I think we get along well. Actually, there have been times though.
Okay.
Where there have been frictions. And I want to ask this to you, Gerard, because I think you play cop, traffic cop with all of our shenanigans and everything going on. In those moments, and I'll give my testimony.
Give your indictment. Don't give your testimony.
That's my testimony.
Give your confession.
Somebody got mad at me. They've been mad at me a few times. I get mad at me because perhaps I had mentioned something about Kobe side pieces needed some aid and assistance
You're
after
really awful.
he transitioned from us, or Vanessa Bryant ruining Kobe's legacy. Like I just, there was a couple of, and somebody was mad at me, and it was a thing, and it happens. I'm wondering, Gerard, in those moments, how do you experience that and know that okay, we need to transition out of this, or do we need to stay here, and work that out?
I think it depends on the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it depends on the level of intensity of everybody. I think we all have had moments where because we are so passionate about certain topics where we are making points, and then as we're men, and so as men sometimes the points, we just kind of go and go and go until it gets to a place that gets a little weird. So we work through it. I don't think any of us have ever had moments that we couldn't work through. And one of the things that I've always found to be good about the five of us is the level of relationships we have. If something does get heated, or if something does start to feel personal, we have ways to work it out outside of the show, where we work through it. There was an incident that happened that never aired, praise the Lord, that got heated. And the thing I love is we were going to make sure we worked it out one way or the other. And I'm grateful that we were able to do that. And so I just think that's the beauty of relationship. The beauty of relationship is we have enough good times to help us work through when there are the occasional moments of friction, and we've learned how to do it and to allow ultimately the relationship to win. If we need to apologize, we apologize. If we need to kind of take a step back, we do that. And even if it's a point of admitting wrong, I've had to do that, and I don't have a problem with that, because to me, what's more important than the show is our relationship. I believe that it is very difficult these days, for whatever reason, for brothers to just be brothers.
Yeah.
And so to me, that is more important than any show, any broadcast, ratings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll say this too. This is another thing, which I won't let this bleed into something else. Part of my job as producer is to make sure that if something gets too heated or is too personal or could damage any of us, it never sees the light of day.
Thank you for
And
that,
so
because I often overstep my own boundaries.
Well, but
Not you.
But the reason why I think that's important is sure, we want viewers and we want people to talk about what we're doing, but never at the expense of anyone's future.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so that's important to me, and I'm just grateful that, again, the things that have happened that have aired, you know, have been all right, and the things that have not aired, you know, that were issues or whatever, we were able to
You're a
work through.
blessing. You're a blessing. Now let me ask you this, GB.
Yeah.
What was the most intense time of friction that we've had on the show? Would it be the time that you just mentioned? And can we talk about it?
I don't know if we want to talk about it.
Can we
Can
bring
I talk about
ourselves?
it?
Can we bring ourselves to the red table?
This is the table. We're all.
Oh, no, come on, man.
It didn't air.
Do we
Ken.
want to do this?
Yeah, it didn't air. It got cut. got
It
edited
didn't
out.
air, so nobody knew about it.
So we don't have to name names if we don't want to, but let's talk about this subject
Okay.
real fast, the fastest
So
way, and
I'm
then
trying to
Patrick can
remember-
say what was his part in it.
I'm,
I don't even. I don't know. I wasn't. I don't think I was in that.
this wasn't a Patrick issue.
You
Really?
you're
Again,
on the
thank
show.
you very much.
This was
Because
not a Patrick issue.
There's people on the chat talking about the disclaimer was for me.
The
And
disclaimer was for you.
Bro.
It was. We do not know that. That is
We
a
do
disclaimer.
know that, Patrick.
Gerard.
Don't you gaslight us on the Saturday, Patrick.
Gerard.
Yes.
Out of all that's said and done, I'm the reason for the disclaimer.
You got towards the middle of the flyer and got real comfortable, Patrick.
You
Yeah.
are the
Hear this
reason
from
we take
Gerard.
off our shoes at the security checkpoint. You're the
Gerard.
reason.
Honor.
That was the reason I instituted
Thank you.
the disclaimer. That is true.
For me,
Yes.
from what?
Now, yeah.
Clutch
It got
Stevie's
me.
braids. Yeah, it was you, dog.
Because we had a period where it was like we could dance around something and never just hit it, and people kind of always like, well, what was that about?
And
there
the
were
people
points-
who knew, and the people who didn't just didn't.
Exactly. But then we got to a point where all of a sudden it was like boom, and I was like, oh God. Because my concern was always, as much fun as I want us to have on this show, I don't want to damage future relationships. And so that's where I was like, well, let's put the disclaimer out so that everybody understands we're not going to damage anybody. These things happen, so on and so forth. And you know, and then everybody felt comfortable, super comfortable. So it was like, oh wow.
Well, here's the thing. Long before the disclaimer came on the show, there were times, I remember 1 or 2 times, I called Gerard and I was like, look, I'm not trying to make problems for you and your relationships. This is your world. You do business. You invited me here, and I could say something that may be true, but don't nobody want to hear it, and it could damage said relationship with you. And was never my intent.
Sure.
And so long before the disclaimer, Gerard and I had those conversations, and I have actually tempered myself to be able to pull back. I don't say half the stuff that's the truth that I want to say, but
you mean like the Clark sisters trying to kill the Pace family?
Absolutely, that
stuff.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
yes, they
true.
did. They absolutely did. How many Clark sisters we got? How many Pace sisters we got? Now you add that up, and then you tell me what it is.
This is what we call light skin
out
logic,
next week.
ladies and gentlemen. This is light skin logic.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was in there.
my God.
So
Wow.
you know, stuff like that.
Oh.
But look,
So GB, tell us the
Corey said, "Who's
situation
the
that didn't
documentary?"
involve Patrick that was intense.
So
Oh,
I'm trying to remember the exact subject matter, but it was music related. It was related to the gospel industry. I do remember that much. And we got into a conversation, and one of the hosts, you know how what happens with us. You know, they'll talk, and I'm trying to talk, and they'll talk, and it got heated, and I made a very bad mistake because I started getting heated, and I ultimately told the host to shut up. And
yeah, I wasn't there for that. That was not me, and I was not there for that. I had nothing to do with it.
This was years ago.
Patrick, I need you to guess though. I need
and
you to guess
so
who it was.
and so what ended up happening was, in that moment when I said that, I didn't mean it like in a derogatory, like I didn't mean it in a bad way, but it didn't go over well.
Oh, I
And
bet.
I could hear it immediately that it didn't
bet.
go over well.
Tell us about
You
it.
you
And
told
so-
Victor to shut up. Is
And
that
so
what it
my
is?
thought
wasn't Victor?
was,
No.
here's my
Yeah,
thought.
it was
My-
me.
Oh,
Was it?
my-
Yeah, it
my
was
I can
thought
see that
was-
happening. I could definitely.
it was
So,
me.
I could definitely see that.
so yeah, it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all.
Boy,
And
signed
I
off.
was thinking of
Look at
another
that.
incident. Go ahead, finish.
Oh well, no. Now I have to hear about this incident. But yeah, this one it didn't go well. And afterwards, like when we got to the end of the show, normally you guys know at the end of the show we're always laughing and
There was
joking.
dead
We're hanging
silence.
out.
No, I
Forget dead
signed right
silence. He got off.
I signed off. I was on my phone like this. I was
And
like,
so I was like,
You're so
yo.
petty. You're
So
so-
I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, I guess he's just mad, you know, like, but I mean, I wasn't serious.
Mhm.
And then, you know, I knew he was like mad.
Yeah.
And so James and I talked, and James was like, yeah, you probably need to call him.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I called him.
Mhm.
And I called to apologize, but he wouldn't take my call. So
We're not
You're
ready to talk.
so, you're so petty. You're
It was just a joke about alopecia. I mean, I'm not ready to talk yet.
So I got pushed to voicemail. So I leave this voicemail apologizing. I can't believe this is happening right now. I leave this voicemail apologizing, you know, saying, hey, listen, you know, like, you're my brother. I did not mean to hurt you, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't hear from him for 2 days.
Yeah, I could believe
And
that.
so when I
Stop,
finally
Patrick,
heard
stop
No.
this. Stop this, Patrick.
No.
Stop it right now.
So when I finally heard back from him, you know, we had a conversation, we talked things out, and everything was cool, you know. But yeah, that never aired and never will air. You know, but it was just one of those things where it was just like in the moment, you know, and it was something that should not have gotten me to the point of saying shut up. Like it shouldn't have, but it was just, you know how you're trying to make a point. And you know, George will put his foot on the gas, you know, and that's cool. Usually it doesn't wear.
It doesn't
on
bother
me, but
any of
whatever-
us.
You know what I mean? But for whatever reason, that day it did, and I was just like, because I just wanted to make this one point. But anyway, that's the one thing that I remember that happened. That was probably the worst that I
I
could
have,
remember.
I have a
James?
bad tendency to not let people finish their thoughts,
Mhm.
and I was kind of good at it that day, so I kind of earned that shut up. That day, yeah.
And the horrible part about it was they weren't too far off from the same side of the conversation.
Right.
They were just so passionate about their points
Yeah.
that they were going back, and then they wound up going back and forth. And then Gerard said, "Shut up, let me talk." And I'm like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, that's awesome.
All I heard was shut up. I didn't even hear to let me talk part.
No. That's and Victor probably deserved that, and I could totally see how that happened.
Oh my god!
James, do you want to testify about the time I called to apologize to you?
Oh wow.
He did. I mean, we got into it on the Vanessa Bryant tip. You know.
Oh yeah, you were upset about that.
Well, it's been over 2 years, and I still haven't come to grip with Kobe's death at this
Well,
point.
we all have.
Well, we've been through 5 pandemics now. I think you ought to go ahead and just let
I'm
them go.
still tripping too.
Okay. I just got the monkeypox vaccine this morning. Well, we just need to move on. Okay. Listen, look. Now I do blame him a little bit because I believe he is the wormhole that took us to this alternate reality. I do believe that in my spirit that there's somewhere in a place that where he is alive and none of us are wearing a mask. I do believe that it's another land, but it ain't here.
Yeah, I mean, we have not been the same since January 26, 2020, and this was fresh. And this is fresh off of the situation. And Patrick wasn't making a joke. You know, the side piece situation, of course, isn't a joking thing, but he was very serious about saying that Vanessa was ruining his legacy.
He was.
This and other, and I took umbrage to that, and we got into it on the show about it, and And then there was a break, and then Gerard asked, "Is everybody good? Is everybody okay?"
And I was just like, "This is a mess."
Yes.
Well,
But for me, and this is one thing that I try to do, and I think it's a telling thing about. I'm real big about not throwing away friendships and relationships because we don't agree on one thing.
Yeah.
And we see it so often. We counsel people so quickly. You know, I can't think of anybody in my world that everything about them I agree with.
Yeah.
You know, all of my friends, we have something, at least one something that there's an impasse on. But we don't have to throw away the entire relationship.
Right.
And so I just figured, well, Patrick and I don't see eye to eye on this, but on the other parts of the show, I'll be fine. But after the show, Patrick did call me directly and just wanted to make. I think was it a text?
No, the call.
Okay.
No. I think it went to voicemail, and I left you a message.
You left me a text, and then
Yeah.
I responded to the text. You know, because to me, the situation was a situation. I'm fine. You know, as long as you don't take money from me.
You weren't fine.
I was fine about the. I was fine.
Why are you picking at it? Though?
No, I'm not.
Can you just let it go? Now, here's the thing about Patrick. What you have to understand is he was making weird jokes like this about the passing of like his own family. He's like,
Oh wow.
there was a year, not quite jokes, but there was a year straight where he ate any and everything. I was like, yeah, because my dad just died. Be like, sir, that was 13 months ago.
Oh,
Wow.
my God.
Put that Portillo's down. You can't use him no more.
For everything. Like,
everything.
this pint of ice cream. My grandmama just died. I can't.
Get that fast.
When it comes to death, it's still everything is still kind of open season. There's no respect, no real grieving.
No. Here's the
Patrick, before you do that, I will say this. Patrick was one of the first people to reach out to me when I had a hard year. A really hard year. There was a patch where I was losing family members left and right. There may be like 2 or 3 at one time. And he called me and left a voicemail message. So it was him playing guitar. And
which is reason to slit your wrists already, but okay.
Listen.
He didn't want you to live, James, but you can take it however you want.
Yeah. You ever had an injury and then something else happens to make you forget about the injury?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it didn't heal it. It just made me forget about it for the moment.
Yeah.
And then there was one time I actually wasn't on the show for a while, and he knew why. And so he texted me, and he said, "James White," and I replied, "Yes." And then he said, "I have never seen a blind gay person."
What? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh.
Well then, sir, you're blind.
What do we do with this?
What?
What?
That is so stupid. That is so
my strength.
dumb.
I'm telling you, I was done.
Oh my gosh.
you had a better day after that. Didn't you?
I didn't have a worse one.
Oh.
Yeah. Then after that.
Wow. Wow.
And so,
Okay,
it helped me put those pieces together as to who Patrick Schaefer really is.
No. So here's the deal. We've had some great
Now
moments.
we all know.
Yeah.
We had some great moments over the show. I want us to pick out just what comes to mind where like that was a great moment on the show, or that was a great bit, because I think some of the bits that we come up with are really organic.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we give real thought to it. It just kind of happens that way, right? If we talking about Shirley season Ave Maria,
That will
Still
never
one of the
not
greatest.
be funny.
Right.
That will never not be funny.
every Christmas that's gonna be hilarious. Do you?
Yes.
Do you get?
It was Patrick's introduction of it when we came out of the break. You know what I'm saying? And they let her out the studio.
They're just like, we got it. That's we can't.
it.
Like it's just
Please.
let's just move on because we're not gonna get.
I'm gonna tell you, I need to get this in. This is still my all-time favorite moment and we've had plenty, but this is still Patrick, you were not on this broadcast. This is when those of you who understand what Bonafide Radio is, he also has another show called The Faction.
Yes.
Don't you start. Don't you
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Was this the first recorded curse?
This was the gateway curse.
Yeah, this was the first one.
This was my gateway curse. Go ahead.
Oh, this was it. Oh my
I got
gosh.
a tear coming out of my eye. I'm still mad about that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell a piece of it, and I'll let Ken finish it.
I don't
This
want
is
to finish
Kenneth's
it.
story.
Go ahead.
This is your story, Kenneth the Mosley. This
I
is your
don't-
story, sir.
I don't care.
This
Go
is
for
great.
it.
So Patrick, so what we did not know is that Gerard had arranged for his brethren from The Faction, which is his wrestling show,
Yeah.
to hijack our show
Yeah.
at the end of our show.
It was.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
He gave them the same information, the Skype information to sign in. So while we're talking, Courtney Beard and Brandon Clack,
Yeah.
they come in on our show, and they just start in their whole NWO type vibe. You know, they come in to hijack. Now, here's the
Came
thing.
in hot. Came in
Came
real
in
hot.
It did come in hot.
So they know me. I know both of them. Okay,
Mhm.
friends of mine. They know of George. They did not know Ken Mosley.
They claim they did.
know to that.
I did not know them. Is the real point.
I know
They
neither.
claim to know me.
So they're in their whole thing where like they're giving like, you know, they're kind of chiding everybody, and anytime we say something, they have some quirk to talk back to, right? So they do that with me, and they do that with George, right? And Gerard is sitting back, and he's Eric Bischoff. He's just sitting back in the back, just chilling out, doing his
Enjoying
thing,
himself.
then letting this moment happen for ratings. Patrick. So Courtney Beard starts talking about Kenneth's voice.
Mm.
Is that what he said? I don't even remember what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started talking about, how did he say it, George? Like, I forgot the way he was saying it.
Hey, I don't know. He just said a key thing, and that was the spark. And
Yeah.
Ken cussed him smooth out. Boy,
It was
I don't know.
amazing.
We call him like little buddy or something like that.
Yeah.
It was,
It was
Oh.
little
That
man
was
voice.
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And then in the
Yeah.
hashtag, and then Ken said, hashtag, I don't know you.
Right, yeah, he
Right.
did. You don't
I
know
couldn't
me.
remember. I couldn't remember. I was like, look, I ain't your buddy. I was like, wait.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening. Ken did all of that.
It
Yeah.
was
I
great.
did. And I don't even use the N word, Patrick, as you know. But
Mhm.
he got it that
About
day.
that day.
He got it that day.
That is that day,
Yeah.
boy.
Woo.
Gerard, any moment that sticks out for you?
You know, one of the moments that really sticks out to me, it was a show we did in the last year that wasn't supposed to happen. We just started talking about how we grew up in church and what those relationships were like and what it was like trying to connect with women and that type of stuff. And it turned into a whole show that was just like unbelievable.
That's basically the Ex's show, yeah?
Yeah. It was incredible. We talked about our church upbringing, about what it was like trying to date, all of those, and none of that was planned. Like we didn't plan. I had a whole show planned, and we got to none of it because this ended up being so good, and people loved it. I mean, like and to me, what I loved about that was A, it was organic, but B, not knowing how connected our upbringings were. And how many of the things that we experienced were similar, and how it shaped us. That was amazing.
What about you, Victor?
My two favorite things is number one, the bits. Those are always those improvs are always fun for me because it could just be the most serious of stories. It could be the most that Lee Williams bit was not supposed to live that long, man.
God.
But when I tell you like that, I'm sitting here and I'm on the line and I can see it all just playing out in my head and it's just coming out and and he's like, it was just magic. It was just magic. I'm telling you.
That Lee Williams bit. No.
That Lee Williams bit, like, it was like,
Because
I was like, I almost thought to myself while Gerard was reading, I was like, why would he read us? All the details of this, that they were placing him on the stage.
yeah, I was trying to talk myself out of it not being funny.
Near my God to be Lee.
I was really I was trying to talk myself out of not laughing.
Precious Lord, take my hand. Precious Lord, take my hand, Lee.
Said Gerard, this is not funny. And nobody should be laughing.
No one should be laughing at this.
And his response was, who's laughing?
But Patrick, at first he was trying to read through, you know, and then every now and then Patrick would just say,
ignorant. Just ignorant.
The lead yell out.
Oh gosh. Oh, boy.
God bless the spirit of Lee Williams.
Wherever he is.
Wherever he is.
Wherever you are.
That ain't right. That ain't right.
You are paternity suit free and alimony free.
You are so awful.
Wow.
Why would you? Why would you? You don't have to do it.
Lee
You
Williams
don't even have to.
stellar?
Lee Williams
I
has
believe
won.
he did.
Apparently, everybody but Ernest Pugh won one. Apparently.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. That's all I needed. Thank you, Doc.
Clearly, everybody has won one except
Everybody.
Oh wow.
Everybody got one except everybody got one.
God.
Except
I mean,
Ernest Pugh.
look, you know, if I'm Ernest Pugh and Charles Jenkins got a Stellar Award,
Listen.
like I'm going to have a problem with that. Like, I don't blame him.
Jenkins got a whole stellar for you, dude. And the second thing, which ties into this, is I don't think I would be as educated on gospel music today as I was if I wasn't a part of this show. I learned a lot
Wow.
being a part of this show.
You learned everything. Clearly.
I said a lot. I learned everything.
Look, if you're
you learned that your family members didn't write all those songs.
Yeah,
right, start right there.
Yeah.
yeah. Like they gracefully allowed me to know that certain songs weren't written by my family members. It gave me a greater respect for people like the Hawkins family, the Winans. You know,
You was in a whole Jamaica church
I'm like,
thinking your cousin wrote Jesus Christ is the way.
listen, I'm sitting there watching the Stellar Awards. I'm like, why is this guy such a big deal? I might cheer for him. Like, who are the Pops Winans? What? Like, about no Walter. Who the Hawkins? He ain't no Dan. He ain't no Lester Walters. I'll tell you that.
That's dope.
He ain't no Elder Lester Walters. That man wrote the blood.
My God.
And it's like the sheer surprise of them, like realizing that I was telling the truth. Like, I know this song, but I don't know who wrote it.
Sincerely.
Like, wasn't it just last year where it was just last year, earlier this year, that I listened to the Tommy's album for the first time.
That's right. Wow.
That was because of y'all. Like, and I knew like the majority of them songs. Like, I knew them. I'm like, I never knew the source of this stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm grateful for that.
Wow.
Well, we're here to help, and we're so glad that you that you know the gospel music didn't start with John P. Key. That's what.
Because you couldn't tell me between 99 and 2008, John P. Key was the greatest gospel artist.
And
that
you
God
talking about
has ever
99
created.
John P. Key? You ain't even go back to Wash Me or.
No,
Listen.
I went back and got all them joints for BMG. But I still ain't paid them
Man.
yet, but I got all them joints.
Your Columbia House.
Columbia House.
BMG Columbia House. To me, it was.
Man.
To me, there was two kings of gospel. If your name wasn't Fred Hammond or John P. Key, you was stealing from the industry.
Right.
That was it.
So those are some of the great times over the last 10 years for me and for James. Since 2016, we've dealt with some horrible stuff, right? And have come on. And I think when I think about it, we're actually processing for ourselves with each other, right? It's like something happens. Oh, I know we're going to talk about it on the show. I want to know what they think about this because this is what I think about this. And our opinions help inform and give another perspective on things. From Trayvon Martin, I remember when that happened, right? I remember, Charlottesville. I remember Trump and all of these really intense moments that we've spent with each other, right? Like we're with each other. And then there was a whole pandemic and a whole shelter in place order where we're all, experiencing this at the same time and trying to process it. I know we've alluded to it, but I want you all to give words to it. Has it helped you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to have this connection when we ourselves, and some of you all have family, you have families that you're reassuring them, trying to tell them, oh, we're going to make it, we're going to be all right. And then perhaps you didn't know. You weren't as confident as how things were going to play out. How have you experienced brotherhood in those moments between us looking over your shoulder? Anybody?
Well, I know for me, there are certain times we've taped right after things have happened or just beginning to come to light. And so while we're on the show, things are developing based on what we're talking about that may have changed our opinion about certain things. And I can honestly say this from the four of you, I've learned a lot from those moments. And it's helped me to process things where I'm not so as knee-jerk as I would be before, because not that I'm wrong in how I feel, but there may be more information that could help me process what's going on. And I think everyone sees things from a different perspective, or you have some information that the other ones would not have had at the time. So when you share, it helps us cope with things or see things from a different light or a better light. And so you can choose to have your whatever opinion you need from that. But how many times do you have brothers that look like us being able to process like that too? And in that vein, we get to flesh this out for people who listen to us. And they would make those comments. They would comment on our social feeds and things of that nature about, hey, I was thinking this way until you guys said this. And so us being human enough, respecting one another enough not to get at each other about, because we mentioned about, what Patrick and I got into about Vanessa Bryant. That's really not a serious thing, but when it comes to Black lives being taken by police, or when it comes for voter suppression in Georgia and other places and things of that nature, when it comes to how many lives being lost. We had so many lives from 2016. I remember we had so many deaths that were happening to people who were either famous people who we felt connection to, or our own lives. And we processed those things together live on the show. And so being able to be real, being able to be raw, respecting how one another feels, but yeah, let's add this respectively, and so, man, I needed those conversations. I would go back and listen to the podcast just to make sure that, I get what I need to get from this conversation and the conversation that we have, and then in the conversation after the show or in our text thread as well. But it's fresh. I love that candor that comes into it. I love the fact that we don't get prepped too much about, what we're going to talk about when we go on the show, so we can really get that raw feel of what's going on, but still be intelligent and responsible men in the situation too. So I absolutely need it, and I love it.
Gerard?
Yeah, I was trying to leave room for someone else to say something, but it's been necessary.
It's my show today.
Yeah, it's been so necessary. What happened?
I said it's my show. It's my show today. I get to.
Oh yeah, it is completely your show. I'm always cognizant. Like everybody needs to talk.
Can't give those light skins nothing.
But yeah, it's so necessary because certainly over the last few years, media has done all of the things that it has done, and if you watch that too long, it will really mess with your head. And so being able to talk things out with you guys, I too have learned quite a bit. And it's helped with perspective, it's helped with information, and it's also helped in not feeling like I'm crazy, because I mean, when you talk about all the things that have happened, there have been things that have happened from government perspective, from social perspectives, from church perspectives. Like, it's been crazy. And to have a place that is safe where we will talk about it in a responsible way, even when there's humor injected, it is still a responsible conversation. It's one of the things I look forward to, because certainly on the socials in our community, it can be like the wild, wild west in people throwing out opinions that are uninformed, or people being super emotional about things. And so I am grateful that we are able to process it for ourselves, and in turn people get to watch that and be informed and enlightened with that as well. So it has been extremely helpful for me to know that I can talk about it here, and it's going to be a responsible and intelligent conversation.
Victor George, did you want to add something to that kind of thing?
So I'll say that the show has always given me I would say the show is pretty much responsible for keeping my social media clean and lighthearted. Because whenever there's something heavy, I can do that on the remix. I'm like, I literally would start typing. I'm like, you know what? We'll cover it on the show. I'll say what I need to say there, and I can keep posting these videos of, what I do. So it's constantly done that for me, and for the reason that Gerard said, like that Wild Wild West of people going back and forth, and I know who I am, and I know that I'm good for that if you say the right thing to me on one of my posts. So I would rather just keep everything light on that side and have a conversation with you guys where I know, like, just like James said, like we don't agree on everything. Like, that's never been a thing. Like, Patrick told me that Randy Moss was better than T.O. the other day, and I'm like, no,
And he
not
is.
so.
And I
No,
just
not
refuse to
so.
go back and forth with you
All right.
about it.
See what I mean? And we
Yeah,
move
I
on.
just want you to know I didn't reply, not because I thought you were right at all.
No,
I
you
think
didn't
you're
reply because
horribly
you were
wrong.
wrong. No,
Yeah.
you were wrong. That's
Go
okay.
ahead. Yeah.
It's all right. And I was having a thought. Yeah, man. It's a safe space for me to talk about these hypersensitive, super sensitive things, and I get to hear your guys' take on it too. And I think that, like I said earlier, it's something that helps me, because I might have a certain wavelength about something, a certain thought about it, and then I hear you guys talk about it. Then I take that and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. I get to process that with what I'm thinking. So it's a safe place. It's a help for me. So I appreciate it.
Kenneth Mosley, you want to share what it has meant to you?
Well, yeah, in reference to what you were talking about in terms of the pandemic, I am a single man. I live alone, sort of, not really. But at this point, I was alone in the house. And, having our connection on and off the podcast really helped me during that time, because there was a point in the pandemic where Los Angeles became the hotspot. So there's really no going anywhere. I went to the park once a day to just leave my house, but having connection otherwise of, like our chat thread is really wicked. But having the humor, all the things, the discussion of politics on and off the show has always been really meaningful for me, because I get to just see, like as George was saying, like all the different viewpoints, and everyone's seeing things from a different lens, and we've grown up in different areas of the country and regions of the country. And as you know, the youngest of everyone, you know,
Hold
it's
on, wait a minute.
Is that confirmed?
Wait a minute. Hold
it
on.
is confirmed.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
that. I mean, we're all 40 plus here, so I mean,
Who is?
See,
You all
That's-
are 40
yeah, right.
plus,
That's what he
All
meant. That's
and
what he meant.
Okay. All right. All right.
you all are 40 plus, and I am learning from you.
Okay. All right.
And so
All right.
Right.
Okay.
let me give you your flowers while you
No.
can still smell them.
This is
Old
hilarious.
people.
Jesus.
So,
He just turned us into lead. Right on the spot. At the cross, Lee. At the cross.
No, but yeah, it's really meaningful, and particularly during the pandemic and everything that we have seen in reference to being Black. As James said, you know, I don't want to fall out with anyone over just one thing, unless it is, you know, after George Floyd. I kind of had that thing, but before George Floyd, but after George Floyd, I was like, oh no. If you all, if anybody doesn't see an issue, then I kind of, and that's black or white. I kind of, I can't. But having, you know, you all as a real sound nucleus has been great. And it's like you said, Gerard, man, it's been years, you know, and a lot of people can't keep up with people for this long. And
Right.
you know, we have managed to do so, and we don't even see each other often, and it's been consistent and very valuable for me.
I want to get your thoughts. I had a couple more questions, and I thank you all again for taking out some time. A couple of questions. We live in a day right now where I think there's this persecution of Black men's voices, per se. I see a lot of memes and a lot of pop-ups, a lot of posts about Black men having a podcast, or this idea that all of a sudden men should not be vocal about feelings, about politics, whatever it is. And I will say with that, I totally get there's a lot of Kevin Samuels in the ecosphere. There's
Oh
a
no,
lot of,
there's one less, but go ahead.
well, yeah. I mean, you know, Kevin Samuels is like Baby Kid. You know, they don't die, they multiply, right? And so it's a lot of that. A lot of Umar Johnsons. There's a lot of stuff, and I totally get. My thing, Gerard, is they've been on The View for 30 years, which ain't nothing but a glorified podcast for women, right? Or there are a lot of different outlets for women to be in group chats on television or wherever, and everybody's okay with that. But it seems like, well, if men talk about love, if we talking about or make some critiques of our relationships about women or none alike, it's like, well, you all shouldn't say that. Do you all hear that and feel that sometimes?
No, I don't. Okay. Here's why. It's just like everything else. It sounds a little, Patrick, like the white actors around here who are like, I can't get a job now because it's going to a Black person. It's like, woe is you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was a time where we couldn't get a job unless it was subservient. It had no backstory, no family, unless you were going to rescue said family. So it's a pendulum that swings, and at some point it comes to a place of homeostasis in the middle. There's balance, but it just may be that you're living through a couple of moments where it feels like that. But remember, men have been able to say everything about everything, and it be taken as gospel, and if not agreed to, adhered to, out of deference to the patriarchy. So I really think we're all going to be okay. We just need to keep talking. And the best thing that we need to do is, as you referenced the Umar Johnsons and the Kevin Samuels of the world, and dare we add the Red Tables of the world, we need to be saying things that actually are uplifting rather than self-serving and gratuitous. And I think that is where people in general get into trouble. When it stops being helpful to others and it tends to be more for your own edification, then that becomes a little masturbatory. And so, no, I don't think we're being persecuted. I just think it's a season of like everyone's like popping up with things, but you know, so what about The View? Women are buyers, and that's what drives television is advertising. So it's just math, and we'll all be okay.
Anybody else have an opinion or take on that?
Yeah, you know, I think our voices are necessary, and I think on one end, I mean, I understand to some degree. I mean, I think part of the challenge is when you have had anyone in a dominant position, whoever has been subservient at some point is going to want to have their say, and they should. As Black people, we have been in that space. Women have been in that space. Black men have been in that space. So I completely understand that all voices need to be heard. What I think needs to happen is all voices who speak need to speak responsibly. And I think wherever there are responsible conversations, people will continue to buy into that. We've seen enough of the fear mongering. We've seen enough of the craziness that can happen in some of these other spaces. But if we decide, and that's what I think is valuable about what we do, is we seek to have meaningful conversation that's going to help move the needle, conversation that will push everybody forward. And even when we have relationship conversations, it's giving people a window into our world. And we don't really talk from a perspective of, you know, this chauvinistic type of thing. Like, that's never been our space. So I'm not worried about, you know, and we've never had people say, you guys are talking too much or whatever. I think people value the conversation that we have because we choose to have, again, intelligent and meaningful conversation that is designed to help people. So I think as long as that's the basis of the conversation, people won't care where it's coming from, as long as it's relevant.
As a podcaster, Victor George, do you have an opinion about that? Yeah, you need to unmute your microphone.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here to help.
They let Jada Pinkett mama and daughter and tell people what they did wrong in their lives. So you got some baby named Willow telling you somebody named Willow good telling me.
Are you okay?
Whoopi don't know what she want to do. She don't know if she want to get the dreads long or she keep on flipping them. They got so much advice, so many thoughts. They got Cheryl. What if we can't speak? But they say Cheryl Underwood. We needed you to tell us as a 90s comedian. We need your take. Cheryl Osborne, you were married to Ozzy Osbourne. You obviously qualified to talk about the world. So long story short, I kind of agree with Patrick on that.
Yeah. No, James, did you want to?
Let it be known that the disclaimer was not just for Patrick; it was also for Victor George.
It was.
I never thought it was just for me.
No, I know.
That's fine. You can put it on me.
And as long as it's protecting my boy, I'm fine with it.
You earned that disclaimer too, George.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I mean, we were having a moment here, and here you go.
I know.
Yeah.
Because that's how it always happens, though.
Yeah.
Always 100%.
Yeah.
I'll take. There'll be some times where the show's going on and it's taking a serious tangent, and off record, George will text me, "I got to break this up." And
I gotta break that follow ground, man.
Just doing the devil's
Break up the
work.
follow ground.
I gotta break up the follow ground, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That just be getting heavy, man.
Man, we remember we had a moment a couple
bro.
of we had a moment a couple of months ago where I almost lost it,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden here comes I was like, oh,
I brought you right out of that. Yeah, you was
I mean,
you was full. You was,
Yeah, 'cause, like, we was legit happy for you and everything that you was going with, and we was like feeding into him, and I heard it.
yeah.
I heard it. I was like, oh, he finna go. Like, I mean, you know, you're James, you're a musician too. You know, you look into the.
You know when to put it in
You
the
got-
E flat.
Listen,
Right.
you gotta tell the musicians, yo, get ready. They about
Right.
to go. So I know that sound and I know that look. So I was like, hey, okay,
yeah,
okay. And he broke it up. So,
yeah, yeah. Turn on the lights in here.
yeah.
yeah.
Turn on these lights.
Oh man.
last thing. I'm gonna let you all go. Music is a big part of our lives, personally, and on our show, music is a big part of what we talk about. New music, old music, trying to educate George as to no, this is a cover. The original was done by so and so, just to broaden his
I don't
palette.
even know when is Lester Walters gonna get put in the Gospel Hall of Fame for all his accomplishments. The way he did it.
Patrick, now you're gonna have to get off of George on that. I had to tell you that rap was an acronym.
I remember that show.
I think I had heard that. I don't think that.
It had not registered.
Yeah, right, but we're talking about something else.
Okay. then stick with the topic.
Yeah, no,
All right.
you stick
Go,
with the.
go to go to your question and get off George. Go to your question and get off
I was
George.
on the topic.
Patrick may not have known that acronym, but he knows how many music artists are liable to hog tie.
Yeah.
So he did know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who hog tied?
See, here we go. Here we go. But
First of all, that hog time bit was. We ran that one for about 2 or 3 months. Like that.
Man,
to
Outstanding.
exhaustion.
We did. Yeah.
outstanding.
Shout out to Kels, because that was we got
I mean, and there's a few more years left to be served in the sentence. You got some time with it.
Yeah, no,
you got
no,
some
no.
time with it.
But I believe him though, Patrick.
Why would
To
I?
this day. To this day.
Can I say something though? Judging from Beyonce's Renaissance record, I think she be hog tying people myself.
Yes. Yes.
Beyonce hog ties. She don't
Yes,
get hog
Beyonce.
tied. I think she hog ties.
Yeah.
God
Keep
bless
it
her.
rolling.
God bless her.
And
Keep
the people
it
that
rolling.
get hog tied, God bless
Keep
them
road.
too.
I'm telling you,
Keep
good
rolling.
road, James.
Get
I mean,
roll.
just expensive road.
Rope and lemon wedges.
Yeah.
House of Durian rope.
Rope and lemon wedges. Put this lemon wedge in your
Baby
mouth.
road. That's what it's.
Oh,
Blue Ivy road. That's
Blue,
what they
blue
call it.
ivy.
Yeah.
and
Don't
Sarah
take this
rope.
plastic off the sofa either.
Beyonce going into Home Depot again.
Oh, Jesus.
Music
Oh.
plays a big part
Love
in our community, and even off the show, we're sharing music and talking about music and all the like. I'm interested, Gerard, because we don't just play our gospel music on the remix. And you alluded to it earlier that you kind of wanted one of the shows to be broad to kind of play everything. And we've seen the industry change, right? Industry has changed just in the last 10 years, and gospel artists, we just talked about gospel artists who have beef and go public right after award show. I'm interested in you all's critique of where specifically gospel music is right now. And we're going to have a remix segment. This is very much a remix segment. Where's gospel music right now, and what do you foresee for the industry going forward?
First of all, Patrick, that's a really great question. Now everyone else, go ahead. That was great, Patrick.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
They lost Ernest Pugh. I know that. Lost him.
it. He going to do ministry.
He going back into ministry. Ain't no ministry in gospel music.
No, clearly it's not.
Not at
Clearly.
all.
Clearly, it's not. I'd have quit when Charles Jenkins won that album of the year.
Was that did that happen this year?
No. That was what 2006, 15, 16.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Just making
Winning.
sure there wasn't something else I missed.
Yeah, he beat Andre Crouch, the last Andre Crouch.
I remember
The
that.
last Andre Crouch record
They
that
brought-
was possible
they-
to have a win for.
They sobered Andre Crouch up and brought him to the Stellars.
You're awful.
and
Wow.
and he was
Why
there
would you do
in
that?
the building, and they
Why
was
would you
not.
do that?
Did I say something? Did I say something?
Wow.
He was. And to his credit,
Oh
to
my
his
God.
credit, as far as we know, everybody in the room was sober. He wasn't the only one.
Oh,
I am saying that everybody was sober. They brought Andre Crouch from San Francisco, from Oakland, and they gave the award to Charles Jenkins. That's when I said I'm out. Like this is rigged. Like Donald Trump says, this is rigged. This is rigged. And
GB, can you help at all? I know it's not your show, but can you help?
Yeah, like I'm reminding
help?
myself. It's but it's his show. I mean, what do I do?
This is
don't-
someone who knows too much.
right. Like
This is an
what?
example of someone who knows too much
In
and does
his
not know what to do
defense,
with it. Doesn't
in
know what to do
Andre,
with it.
blessed Andre Crouch's defense, everybody in the room was sober as far as we know.
Oh my
So I am not casting aspersions
Oh my
on him.
god.
All I know, they got him off his sick bed of affliction and put a beret on him and brought him to the Stellars and gave
Jesus.
that award to Charles Jenkins. And that was the last Andre Crouch record we ever got.
Wow.
So that's
It is an assault. on
that
what-
is
on what
that is
we
a
call-
travesty. That
It
is a
is.
travesty. Wow. So I understand Ernest Pugh. I totally get it. It's rigged.
I mean, okay. He had one great song. Okay, anyway.
I would just like to say that the thoughts and opinions of the love again.
Oh,
not
yes.
necessarily reflect-
They
Yeah.
are completely reflective of the host entirely.
Yes.
Entirely. In its entirety.
Sheesh.
My God,
Oh man.
Jesus. So gospel music, yeah, the direction.
yeah. Thank you, James.
Mhm.
It don't look like it's
Thank you, James. It's a Cardi voice. Thank you, James.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh Lord.
I guess from a songwriter's perspective, I think as long as there are good songs, we'll always have an industry, and we're primed now. We're looking for what's next. I think everybody's looking to copy, and which is a bad thing. But I think where everything is right now, it's prime. It's prime market for creative people, creative writers who are dedicated to the process and in it for the long haul and for the right reasons to give us the content that we need. We need songs. We need inspiration. We need hope. We need this genre of music to be represented in a great light. I would love to see generations connected through it. That what has been done before is still has value, still has great value. And so we don't have to shy away from foundations that were made, in the early days or in the modern days, going to now. That it could have so many different sounds and great variety, but still have the same strength. I would hope that there would be connection with generations, that it's not just the young people doing their thing, and the young people not reject what's happened before them, that there would be gaps to be bridged together and we can communicate on a higher plane so it can continue further and further and further on. There was a time that what the Clark sisters were doing was taboo, and now it's traditional. You know what I mean? I can remember them always getting kicked out of the Church of God in Christ because you brought the sunshine being played in the clubs. There was a time where Thomas Dorsey was considered secular. You know what I mean? So you mentioned Andre Crouch. There was a time where they didn't want to play his music because it was considered too edgy and this, that, and other. And then so that repeats itself in every generation. So what could be considered new school now would be old school at a certain point, very, very soon. So hopefully we can embrace the integrity of this rich industry that the world needs, because you hear it in pop music, you hear it in R&B music, you hear it in every other phase of music. They all have some kind of choir I mean, Beyonce had Choir and Break My Soul. You know what I mean? So, so that sound is still very relevant and it's still very necessary, and hopefully we can continue it forward.
Gerard, you want to?
I have a lot of thoughts, and I'll try to condense them. I will say that I think, on one hand, there are opportunities right now that are available to the gospel music industry that were never available before. I mean, think about these last few years. We've had not just music, but we've had movies being made about gospel artists, biopics or biopics, from the Clark sisters. Now we've got this Marvin Sapp story that's getting ready to drop in a week or so. Like, there's just a lot more that's happening. Hey, just roll with it. Just keep moving. We have a lot of additional opportunities that are available to faith-based artists. I want to piggyback on something that James said, where I feel like not only is there a need for there to be unity in terms of cross-generational, but I think there needs to be unity and an embracing of advancement and forward movement. I think it is unfortunate that the genre ends up holding itself back always by a few years because they have to test something or they have to get comfortable with something before they can be good with it. I mean, we remember probably about 7-8 years ago when streaming was the talk and everybody was talking streaming versus buying, and it took the industry years to get on board with where everyone else was already moving. So we end up being late in terms of embracing technology and embracing new things. You know, this whole idea that people are upset that hip hop was included in the Stellar Awards. Well, hip hop has been doing some pretty incredible things. I mean, right now, you know, you can see Christian hip hop in mainstream commercials, on the NBA, on ESPN, on video games, and all of these spaces that I believe gospel as we know it should have been, or urban gospel should have been. So my thought is we're going to have to be able to embrace whatever the future holds and embrace it much quicker for the genre to be able to progress. The good part is there's always going to be a need for inspiration. The question is who's going to be able to get it to the people. And if the gospel music genre continues the infighting that it's been doing, the people who need inspiration will get it from wherever it comes. I mean, I believe DJ Khaled has a new record coming next week, I think. It's called God Did. And the whole purpose behind it is saying, when everybody else didn't believe in me, God did. Now, let me tell you, while the Christians are fighting over, you know, the Christian Hip Hop Awards, Stellar Awards, Khaled's going to get them. And when Khaled gets him with that message, nobody can say anything because we had the opportunity first. So I'm just saying, embrace the opportunities to get the message out, because if you don't, somebody else will.
That's great. Victor, you wanna add something?
Kind of don't want to add nothing because it might be a little bit negative to some. I'm kind of, I guess the better way to put it, the most positive way to put it, I'm kind of in love with the gospel music that I've already known for so many years. So embracing this new stuff has been a bit more difficult, especially when it's the recycling of the whole thing is kind of just too new for me. Like, you know, it just feels like everybody is just trying to fit a specific lane. And like when you could tell a change, when you're calling out numbers to a song that you're hearing for the first time, and you know where they're going, it's just I'd rather just listen to Not Guilty again. And I still feel the same way I feel when I hear right here hits the same way in 2022 that it did when it first came out. Like all these songs that I heard back then, like they still give me that great feeling. Like I could go back and listen to Ty's Victory and Love It, like Greater Than, all of that stuff. So it's like I'll say this, I want to embrace new music, but it's just harder for me after that first play, outside of ties all things new. I don't think there has been anything in gospel that made me say, let me start that again from the top. Like it's just I'm just not getting that feel no more because it's just, you know, 1, 4, 5 minute, and then I'm like, okay, this is cool, and I'm like, all right, I just move on. So I want, of course, gospel music will keep going because there's more people that are being inspired, you know, and making music, and like the award show showed it itself. Like we're talking about Doe
Mm-hmm.
and how she was like, if you didn't know me before, here's who I am, like for real. And if you forgot who I am now, this is how I started off. So it's like I, I I'm still hopeful. I will listen. I will give you one listen. I'm not gonna deny you that. Like I'm gonna listen. But if it's just something where I'm just gonna be like, all right, let me go back and listen to some Fred or go back and listen to some else, and then I'm just gonna move on. But it's gonna continue. There's gonna be somebody, and I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. There's gonna be somebody that's gonna flip this thing on his ear again, and we're gonna like be in love with it again. Trust me, I'm gonna be. I don't want to speak to anybody else, and I'm gonna be in love with it again. So like the new stuff.
Okay. Kim Mosley, you want to add something to that?
You know, I think this goes for not just gospel music, but music in general. There is a laziness happening, and I think it is due to the fact that social media allows us to see so much of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
First of all, there's only so many hours in the day, so much time in the day. But exposure to what everyone else is doing stops your own creativity because you don't take the moments that you need to go within, to stop everything, shut out what you've seen, and go inside and see what you're seeing in your heart and in your creative mind and brain. I think it's the reason why we have all these reboots. I think it's the reason why we have all of this retro. I think it's the reason why, like there's so many trends that seem to spread so much quicker than they used to when we were growing up, because it's like, well, we can send it across the country. We can, listen and leak things and this and that. And so now everyone's doing a disco record. And then now, you know what I mean? So it's not just gospel music. What I think in particular for gospel music that still at times is missing is a message that is balanced. And I'm not talking about balance between like spiritual and natural. I'm talking about we get on this one message and then we just stay there ad infinitum, and it's causing laziness in writing. We stay on this one hook and we call that a song, or sometimes we call it the song of the Lord, and it's really just it's laziness and lack of creativity. And it's like, well, we don't need to create. No, the Lord created. He's a creator, and you're in his image. You are supposed to be creative as well. What is your message that is unique from your perspective and your lens and your relationship with God? The other thing that I think is missing is that the Bible refers to the gospel message as the gospel of peace. And there's still so much upheaval in the message. Everyone is lost. Everyone is trying to be found. Everyone is trying to not be a slave. It's just still very downtrodden, even from our white counterparts that used to be like, everything is great. Now they over there crying. And I'm like, well, what are y'all crying for? You know what I mean? So I just think that in general, we need, which is why Beyonce's new record resonates. It's like, you ain't bring my soul. You know what I mean? Like, I'm coming up rather than like this whole focus on, let me out. It's like, no, I got the power within me to come up and be up. And I think that's in part what gospel, and I hope it recovers. The way that things are happening in secular music may be an indicator, because as you said, Gerard, things tend to be behind. So I think creativity is coming back in the R&B, pop, and other areas. And then the cross-pollinating of, country to pop and and even legit or classical music and opera being infused in different things. So I'm hoping that gospel will continue to follow along late as normal and make some rebounds.
Yeah, all of that's great. All of it's good. I'm going to add 2 cents and then I will be finished for the day. One, and we talked about this before. One of my critiques is that it seems like we have a generation of gospel artists that are writing for format, radio format, or writing for genre. And I think when that's the dominant thing, oh, I need to write this way because this is what they're playing on the radio, then it stifles creativity. Of course it does, because you're not hearing anything outside of this and you are trying to manufacture a hit or manufacture a song to get played on the radio. So I think that's one issue. The other issue is that I'll make a critique of the pulpit itself, in that we are not, from the pulpit, creative enough in our theology where it is provoking poetry and creative ideas,
or evolving, Patrick.
yes, or
That part.
evolving in our theology, right? In ways that stirs creatives that are sitting there in our pews, whether they're playing or whether they're in the congregation. I think part of that is our responsibility. And then when you look at the similarities, well, from the pulpit, everybody's saying the same thing, right? Everybody has basically this one idea that they're reproducing in a lot of different ways. And I understand I can see fundamentalism and I can see orthodoxy, whether it's a big bosom church mother or whether it's dressed up in skinny jeans and has tattoos. Like, it's all the same thing. And until we move past that to really have revelation in our pulpits, then I don't think that we're going to see the creativity in the artists and creatives that we should. And that's going to affect what we call the gospel, right? And so all of those things are worthy of consideration. Thank you all for hanging out
That
with us.
was so good, Patrick.
That was good.
Really, really, really rich. You should put that on your social media.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to say thank you to you all. Thank you, Kenneth, for number one, being a friend and then introducing me to these wonderful brothers. I am not the kind of person who makes friends easily. And it was very much a
Because you
surprise.
say any damn thing that comes to your mind.
Well, that's not, and that's kind of rich coming from you. But
What are you
we don't
saying?
have to do this in public. Let's not. We don't even have to have this conversation. I am saying, for whatever reason, I don't make friends easily, and you all have been gifts to me in my life. Your friendship is a gift, and I love you all very much. And thank you, Gerard, for the opportunity to be a part of this, the remix, and then for being brothers to me. I appreciate you, and I love you all very much.
Can I ask
And I love
one
you all.
thing?
Yes.
Since you're doing this kind of like a special, can we do another special where we actually do our list?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
here we
going to be
go.
on me. That's on me. We're going to do it.
Okay. I mean, Patrick's hosting things now. He can do it if you're busy.
I have made a declaration, a New Year's resolution last month, that I was never going to bring it up again.
Did you really?
You made a
I
New
did.
Year's resolution in July.
In July.
Yeah,
In
I'm there in
July.
July. It was a New Year's resolution. I'm not going to.
Well, we are doing this. I love actually the fact that we're here like this because it feels,
Look at James'
it feels really
face.
good. Yeah, I know. I already know. Just be available. That's all.
Well, yeah, and that's
Just
what I
be
need.
available.
Listen,
That's
we're
what-
about to get Stellar TV before we do this show.
Listen,
Oh my God. Bless
Gerard,
America.
Gerard, if we get Stellar TV before we
No,
do
I
this,
know that you kind of right, Gerard. Now, come on now.
That's not gonna happen. That's not. We will have this
he
before
said that
Stellar
with
TV
confidence.
hits.
That's
Like,
like
that's
He
not.
said that's not going to happen. He said Ernest Pugh win the Stellar before that.
Oh my God. Okay, well, time to wrap it up.
Yes,
That boy
yes,
had
it's
all
been
his
wonderful.
nomination plaques before, behind him, talking to Larry Reed, talking about, I don't understand.
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Thank you all for rocking with us. Thank you all for being a part of this show.
This is
Now.
This has been This has been awesome.
Wonderful.
It
This
has
has been
been
great.
Why would you do this? Right
I'm
after
glad
the
we
show?
did. I'm glad we did this.
Here we go.
I'm glad we had this time. Thank you for everybody. Uncle L, Darshell, Chris Brown, Greg, Renata, Jody, all of you all who everybody for hanging out with us. Thank you all very much. We'll be back in a few with some more episodes of Love Again podcast. But check us out on the remix every Thursday.
Every Thursday, yeah.
Every Thursday on the remix, and I'm excited. I look for it's my favorite show. So I hope it's yours too. All right. See
Yeah.
you all next time. Love you all very much. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.